So this is an attempt by Donald Trump to seize power. That sounds like a provocative thing to say, but how else do you describe what we have watched happen over the last week? The broad immunization of political violence, the illegal firing of inspectors general there to make sure that the money of the taxpayers isn't stolen. And today, the illegal and unconstitutional decision to put the president of the United States and no one else in charge of who gets federal money and who doesn't. What President Trump is doing is seizing control of the federal budget and deciding by himself who gets money and who doesn't. For two reasons. One, he wants to bank money so that he can afford his massive tax cut for billionaires and corporations. But second, so that he can hand out money to his friends, to the companies that are run by his billionaire donors, to states that voted for him, to congressional districts with members of Congress who are loyal to him, and so that he can deny money to any organization run by Democrats, to companies that are competitors to his billionaire friends, to congressional districts represented by his political opponents. This is what a king does. This is not how a democracy works. One man does not decide how taxpayers' money is spent so that it only gets sent to the president's political friends and it gets used to punish his political enemies. The scope of the damage that will be done is enormous. To poor kids who rely on Head Start programs, to families who desperately need that cancer research done, to veterans who, if they miss one or two appointments, their life falls apart suddenly overnight. We have to understand what is happening in context, right? The president wants you to be distracted by the day-to-day announcements, but put together the pardoning of the violent rioters, the firing of the inspectors general, and today, the stoppage of federal funding, leaving the decision only to the political whims of President Trump, represents the gravest, most serious constitutional crisis of our lifetime, one that threatens to undermine the very premise of American democracy. And I'm glad to be standing here with my colleagues to raise this alarm.
Last night, President Trump plunged the country into chaos without a shred of warning. The Trump administration announced a halt to virtually all federal funds across the country. In an instant, Donald Trump has shut off billions, perhaps trillions of dollars that directly support states, cities, towns, schools, hospitals, small businesses, and most of all, American families. This is a dagger at the heart of the average American family in red states, in blue states, in cities, in suburbs, in rural areas. It is just outrageous. Funds for things like disaster assistance, local law enforcement, rural hospitals, aid to the elderly, food for people in need, all are on the chopping block in this new administration. Why? They need tax cuts for the ultra-wealthy, and these cuts, they think, will fund them. Every one of our offices has been deluged with calls from people who are in panic. What is this going to mean? What if I have a hospital that has people on life support? What are we going to do? And just like the January 6th pardons, this decision is lawless, dangerous, destructive, cruel. It's illegal. It's unconstitutional. I spoke to my attorney general this morning. She's head of the State Attorneys General Association. They're going to court right away on this horror. This Plain and simple, this is Project 2025. Project 2025 by another name. They knew how unpopular Project 2025 was, but the right-wing ideologues are still in control. So they had to do it in a different way, but it has the same consequences and will have the same horrible, negative, overwhelming reaction from the American people. And who is going to be the implementer of this? None other than the chief cook and bottle washer of Project 2025, Russell Vought. Putting someone like Russell Vought at OMB, the architect of Project 2025.
Top story, an overnight memo from the Trump administration ordering a sweeping pause on all federal grants and loans that could impact trillions of dollars in federal assistance for people in every state. Let's bring in Democratic Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro of Connecticut. Congresswoman, great to see you. Thank you so much. I understand you're the top Democrat on the Appropriations Committee. What is going on with these programs that are going to be impacted by this? We were looking at a graphic earlier that showed Head Start, breakfast and lunch programs for needy children. Say it ain't so.
Well, it is so. And thank you so much for inviting me to be on, Jim. I think this is really outrageous. And this administration is really hurting hardworking Americans. The actions are causing chaos. I can't tell you how many calls I've had, from mayors, from colleagues, et cetera, of what is going on. And when you ask the agency what funding is safe, their response is, we don't know. And if they don't know, then nothing is safe. And nothing is safe. You should know. I'm going to make a point to you, Jim, that, sure. But that's not really, he is breaking the law. This is the Appropriations Committee has voted bipartisan House, Senate, signed by the president, and this is law. And he's taking it into his hands to thwart that system, and he will continue to do it. But your point is, and my point is, how is it affecting Americans? And you highlighted some. I am now sitting for this interview in a Title I school district. And that takes care of 3 schools in my community. I'm about to speak to kids here this morning. And what does it mean if the Title I funds are frozen? That means that teachers don't get paid. You talked about Head Start. It's childcare. It is the after-school programs. And more examples, SNAP. Food benefits so families can feed their children, the WIC program, which deals with women, infants, and children, housing, and programs that deal with housing assistance, veterans, writ large, homeless provider grants for them. There is nursing home care, transportation programs, suicide prevention programs. I can go on and on, Jim. This is reckless in terms of the services that the federal government provides to hardworking Americans. And my constituencies, my constituents, who are going to be hurt. And this is in every city and town across this country. And it is in violation of the law, in violation of the Constitution.
Well, and you and Senator Patty Murray of Washington State wrote a letter to the White House saying, quote, we can put this on screen. We write today to urge you in the strongest possible terms to uphold the law and the Constitution and ensure all federal resources are delivered in accordance with the law.
Massachusetts. It's great to see you. You have written a lot of letters. I can't wait to see more letters. And there's so much I want to talk to you about, but I just want to talk about what I just laid out, which is this litany of things that Trump focused on last week. You wrote a letter with 20 Senate Democrats, today. And you noted in that letter, there are a lot of things he can do. I mean, he can increase competition. He can deal with price gouging, things that will actually lower costs for people. Makes sense. Sounds great to me. Right. Wish he would do it. And probably everybody watching. But I doubt he will do any of that. Do you have any hope he will do it?
So, look, either he will do it, which is really good for the American people. There are a lot of folks who are struggling to make it to the end of the month. Prices are going up. Price of eggs. $3.65 last November. The latest I've seen is $4.25. So there's a lot he could do. I hope he does it. But if he doesn't, then it is our job to hold him accountable. And right now, it's about focus. It's just you got one of the words quoted in there. He kept using the words immediately. I will do this immediately when he ran. He said on day one. And it's not only that he hasn't moved the needle, it's that he hasn't even indicated he knows where the needle is or cares very much. And I think that's the part we have to keep bearing down on. His failure to even try to move in the direction of lowering costs is a betrayal of the American people.
I think this is such an important point. He has not used the bully pulpit. He has not used any opportunity to lay out a plan, to speak to it. That should be sticking out to people as well. There was an IG purge on Friday night, and 18 IGs were fired, which is such a significant step. It makes it their accountability. They keep Democrats in control. They keep Republicans. They are not a partisan entity. You posted that Donald Trump is, quote, dismantling checks on his power and paving the way for widespread corruption. I took that to mean he's going to put his people in place and they're not going to hold to account government like they should. But what did you mean by that?
So it's exactly that. Look, the IGs, can I say this, are really kind of the most boring people on earth. And I mean that in a good way.
We love nerds here.
I do.
Boring
totally
is good.
into nerd. Because the whole point is they just make sure you follow the rules.
To see more of this is a good start. We need to see Democrats really go after him in the Senate, the House, wherever, because Donald Trump's actions are, in some cases, clearly illegal, but they're always a dishonest twisting of presidential power. They need to make it clear to Americans that Trump is breaking the law in many cases, but also that Donald Trump is abusing the trust the system places in the president. Because, as I've talked about before, when the U.S. system of government created the office of the president, a lot of what a president can do was left kind of undefined powers presidents have picked up over the centuries. And it's always sort of relied on a shared, bipartisan assumption that the president won't abuse those powers. But someone acting in bad faith, like a Nixon or a Trump, really puts that whole system at risk. So you have to stay alert if the law isn't going to hold the president back. Then public anger has to. But beyond that, Trump is just openly breaking the law by refusing to spend money that Congress ordered him to spend. Money that's already been approved that's straight up dictatorial. Some Republicans might say, oh, this is reasonable. But imagine if Bernie Sanders got elected president in 2020, and Republicans and Democrats both still wanted a strong military, and they overruled Bernie on it because it was a bipartisan decision. Now imagine President Bernie says, I'm just not going to give the military any money you can pass a military budget, but I'm going to take half of what you gave them and just not hand it over. Leave it sitting in the bank. That would be unconstitutional, even if I'd probably support the outcome. And that's exactly what Donald Trump is doing, which is why he's getting torched.